Recent open-source reporting suggests Russia has begun fielding modified Shahed-136 loitering munitions, fitted with a single Soviet-era R-60, NATO designation, AA-8 Aphid, infrared air-to-air missile. If broadly adopted, this crude but clever modification changes the dynamic of the counter-UAS fight. It turns what was largely a ground-targeting weapon into an improvised airborne interceptor and a direct threat to Ukrainian rotary-wing and fixed-wing assets, as well as to the small interceptor drones Ukraine relies upon. Initial reports and imagery indicate the practice is real and spreading. In this video, Defense Updates analyzes why R-60 armed Shahed-136 is a new headache for Ukraine. Before we proceed, a word on NordVPN, which is one of the most trusted and fastest VPN brand that has a no-log policy validated by Deloitte. NordVPN provides a 256-bit encrypted tunnel that protects your privacy and also enables you to access contents that are blocked based on geolocation. Its threat protection system helps you avoid phishing, scams, and malware. NordVPN application is available for all the major platforms as well as browsers. Get an exclusive NordVPN deal with massive saving by going to nordvpn.com/defense or clicking the link in the description. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The Shahed-136 is a low-cost Iranian-made loitering munition designed primarily for one-way attacks on ground targets. It is small, slow, and simple, but it is cheap and effective. The drone measures about 2.5 meters in wingspan and roughly 3.5 meters in length with a total weight of around 200 kilograms, 440 pounds, nearly a quarter of which is its explosive warhead. It is powerful enough to inflict serious damage on infrastructure, vehicles, and fortified positions. Propelled by a small rear-mounted piston engine that drives a pusher propeller, the Shahed-136 cruises at approximately 180 kilometers per hour, 110 miles per hour. Iran claims a maximum range of up to 2,500 kilometers, 1,550 miles, though in operational use the practical range tends to be significantly lower. It flies at low altitude, often below radar detection level. This makes it harder to spot, especially in bad weather or at night. Russia has rebranded it as Jiran 2 and has been using it extensively against Ukraine. The R-60 is a short-range, infrared homing air-to-air missile developed in the 1970s. When introduced, the R-60 was one of the world's lightest and most agile air-to-air missiles, with a launch weight of 44 kilograms, 97 pounds. It has infrared guidance with an uncooled Komar mosquito seeker head. According to Russian sources, max engagement range is about 8 kilometers, 5 miles at high altitude, though practical range is half of that. The missile can travel at speeds of up to Mach 2.5. The R-60 uses a very small 3 kilograms, 6.6 pounds, tungsten expanding rod warhead. Mounting a heat-seeking missile to a cheap loitering airframe creates an attacker that can seek and home on hot signatures, engines, helicopter exhausts, or the warm cores of interceptor drones. That gives the launcher a different kill set. It can aim at and destroy aerial targets, not only buildings and ground vehicles. The operational effect is threefold. First, Shahed plus R-60 becomes a direct threat to manned aircraft that operate at low altitude near the front, most notably attack helicopters, transport and SAR helicopters, and light fixed-wing aircraft. Viewers may note that Ukraine has been using Mi-8 and Mi-24 helicopter gunships to shoot down Shaheds. The slow pace of Shaheds make them vulnerable to this tactics. Second, it becomes a hunter of counter-UAS systems. Cheap interceptor quadcopters and swarm defenders that used to chase down Shaheds can now be targeted in turn. This shifts the burden onto already stretched air defense networks and complicates rapid responses during mass drone attacks. Third, the psychological and operational friction rises. Air crews and drone operators must plan for an enemy that can shoot back in the air, forcing more conservative tactics, heavier countermeasures, and denser air defense coverage. Despite its potential, the Shahed-136 armed with an R-60 missile has significant limitations. The R-60 seeker is decades old and far less sensitive than modern infrared systems, making it effective mainly against large, hot targets like helicopter exhausts, but unreliable against small drones or aircraft using countermeasures. The added missile also introduces aerodynamic and stability issues for the slow, delta-wing Shahed platform, potentially reducing flight endurance and complicating missile launch conditions. Many early examples recovered in Ukraine show structural failures or incomplete integration, underscoring the fragility of the concept. Even when it functions, the R-60 carries only a small warhead, limiting its lethality. The Ukraine-Russia war has brought forward many interesting tactics like cope cages. The conflict is also the first one where small drones are being used so extensively. While this move looks like a makeshift arrangement, it has significant implications on the battlefield. The real danger of R-60 armed Shaheds is not that every such drone will succeed, it's that their presence changes behavior. A few credible incidents against helicopters or interceptors can force Ukraine to alter tactics, invest in costly countermeasures, and reallocate precious air defense resources. That operational friction can translate into battlefield advantages for Russia beyond the raw kill count. Furthermore, the concept illustrates a broader pattern. Inexpensive, improvised upgrades to mass-produced munitions can yield asymmetric effects that are hard to counter quickly. The R-60 on a Shahed is emblematic of a rapidly evolving, low-cost arms race, one where adaptation and counter-adaptation matter more than raw platform cost. Arming Shahed-type loitering munitions with legacy IR missiles like the R-60 is a pragmatic step that multiplies Russian options on the battlefield. It forces Ukraine to contend with a new class of airborne threat, cheap, semi-autonomous hunters capable of striking aircraft and interceptor drones. While the technical shortcomings of uncooled seekers and poor aerodynamics limit perfect performance, the psychological, operational, and resource pressures this concept imposes are very real. Kyiv will need a mix of improved soft kill systems, scalable kinetic interceptors, hardened operational doctrine, and targeted strikes on launch infrastructure to blunt the effect. The arms race is accelerating, and for now the R-60 armed Shahed is a fresh headache Kyiv cannot ignore. The arms race is accelerating, and for now the R-60 armed Shahed is a fresh headache Kyiv cannot ignore.